Good afternoon, everyone. I'm joined up here today on my left, Lieutenant Pat Brown, Manhattan North Detectives, Chief Martin Matarazzo, Manhattan North Detectives. Now on my right, far right, we have Detective Pat Purcell and Detective Rachel Snyder. I asked them to join today because they were working the last couple of weeks essentially nonstop on this case, that we want to give you an update on where we stand today on that tragic incident of the two girls that were recovered, 16 and 23 years of age, along the Hudson River. We do have some more information to share with you today. I'll begin by just summarizing what we know as we stand here. Back in November 30th of 2017 was the last time the two girls were seen by the family, and that's according to the family, and that's out of the residence in Virginia. In December of 2017, after they had been reported from November 30th, they were at some point in time located and returned, but they were not returned to the home. They were returned to, I'll call it, a shelter-like type facility due to some abuse allegations that came up. As you fast forward, the last time from December of 17 to August of this year, essentially about 8 months, we do not have contact per se, but in the end of August, August 23rd or August 24th, the girls go missing from the facility where they had been staying. Again, the family tells us they had had no contact at all during this time. From the time August 23rd or on or about August 24th, we believe the girls took a series of methods of transportation, north by northeast, eventually arriving in New York City on or about September 1st of this year. We have that corroborated by some electronic court records, subpoenas and the like, specifically at least one of Uber, where they took Uber cabs towards a path bringing them to New York City. Again, September 1st, we have them in New York City. That takes from September 1st to roughly October 24th when they were discovered along the Hudson River. In that time, we're still deciphering numerous volumes of court records that were ordered. Again, I want to thank the detectives on my right because they've literally been working nonstop on this. We have them staying at a number of high-end hotels in New York City during this time. It's important to note we have them recovered on video in apparently good health during this time, as recently as a week before when they were discovered. We also have them following a pattern of ordering meals, always 2 meals, until best we can surmise at this point in time, and this is again preliminary, that the credit card, the money started to run out. That's what we believe happened. That takes us to Wednesday, October 24th, and that's the day you're all familiar with. Wednesday, October 24th is the day that the passerby on the Hudson bike path discovered them and called 911, which brought the people behind me to the scene that day. As we move forward now, again, we know now as we look back that they were in New York City since September 1st, staying at a number of hotels. We have them shopping at various locations. We have them ordering food, and again, at the hotels. When you look at the family members in this case, we have reports that asylum was requested. We also have reports of abuse involving the family. This is not corroborated at this time from us, but there are reports of abuse between the brother, the mother, and the father that have been brought to our attention. And again, this is in another jurisdiction, and this is sometime in the past. Which brings us now to October 31st. October 31st, we're contacted by an eyewitness. The eyewitness calls the detective squads. The detectives to my right make contact with this individual, and they are told essentially by a credible source that on October 31st, when he makes contact with us, he tells us a story that is haunting him, his words. He says that he is a frequent exerciser in the vicinity of Riverside Park. On the exact day that the girls were found in the water, he was at the park earlier that day, approximately 7 in the morning, for his daily exercise routine. He came across in a playground within Riverside Park 2 girls sitting about 30 feet apart. He described them as alone, just the 2 of them. They were sitting 30 feet apart, but he believed they were together. They were sitting with their hands in their heads lowered, and they were making noises loudly that he described as praying. I will point out that this location, this playground, roughly 158th to 163rd Street up on the Riverside Park area, is a very short distance from the Hudson River. It is believed, or the possibility exists, that the girls, again, when you come back to how they were discovered with the duct tape, and duct tape that I would describe as not binding them tight together, more like keeping them together. It brings us to where we are today. Where we are today is still an ongoing investigation, a lot of work done. At this point in time, we have no credible information that any crime took place in New York City, but it is still under investigation. We're still working very closely with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. There has been no cause of death ruled in this case, although the information we have at this point in time is that it is entirely credible that the girls entered the water alive. We have them praying the morning that they were found, a short distance from the water. We also have sources that the detectives have developed from this investigation thus far, statements made that they would rather inflict harm on themselves and commit suicide than return to Saudi Arabia. So that is essentially a backdrop of where we are today. I'll open it up for some questions.
When you said they'd rather do harm to themselves instead of return to Saudi Arabia, was that a friend or a family member who heard them say that?
That's sources that we spoke to in Virginia, and it was not family.
Why exactly did they feel that way? Was there anything particular in Saudi Arabia that was it the culture? Was there some sort of evident danger for them specifically?
I don't have information to speak to that. What I can tell you is that they were in this country approximately 2 to 3 years. They did raise allegations of abuse. What specifically was the reason they did not want to return to Saudi Arabia would be speculation. I'll try to avoid that.
Is it that they were abused or that they witnessed abuse within the family?
They raised, it was raised that they were the subject of abuse, yes.
You spoke to the mom, I understand, and she told you that she was contacted by Saudi Arabia officials letting her know that they had to come back home because that her...
I did not say that. I have heard that, but I cannot confirm that.
Would it have been normal for the U.S. to told the Saudi Arabian government that their two people were seeking asylum?
Again, I did not say that, so I have heard that reported in the news. I'll just to try to clear up some issues that have been in the news. It's been reported that they jumped off the George Washington Bridge. We have absolutely zero information to lead us to that. Is it possible? I can tell you that there was no, I'll say, marks on the body indicative of a fall from a height. We have them in a close proximity to the water the morning they were discovered. And from the location where they were discovered, it's such a place where you would essentially walk right into the water. So the George Washington Bridge, while I'm not discounting it, we have absolutely nothing to say. I don't know where that information came from. Likewise, there's been reports that they were discovered laying across each other in a cross type, almost indicating that it was a religious type. That is absolutely false as well. Rocco?
Sightings of them before October 24th show them to be in a distressed state of mind, or is only on that day the only time that they appear to be disturbed?
Yeah, we are literally, Rocco, and this is nothing but the truth. We are literally receiving reports from court-mandated records that we requested hour by hour. We have now tracked them, confirmed through video, already on 2 sources. In both sources, they do not seem to be stressed. The most recent one is, I believe, about 5 or 6 days before they are found. They appear to be in good health. They're alone. Again, I indicated that we have a pattern of ordering food almost daily. That seems to be a pattern of ordering 2 meals several times a day. We have them on video twice in good health, and it's just the 2 girls, dressed as normally 2 girls would be dressed.
Was it their credit card that you all have been able to trace, or was it someone else's?
We are looking at their credit card, and it was maxed out at the end. I'm not going to get too far into that. There was physical abuse as well as some other things mentioned, but I want to stay away from that for now.
Chief, is there a phone or a phone number that you got in the police you received in contact with anybody about that?
Yeah, we're exploring all angles. We are certainly looking at any electronic evidence that we can exploit just to try to fill in some gaps. We still do have some gaps to fill in, but again, I thought it was important to stand here today with obviously the attention this case has gotten, and anytime obviously two girls, this is a tragedy all the way around, and we wanted to make sure. I've said before, we want to get justice for the victims. We treat everything like it's a crime until we know otherwise. At this point in time, and we've already put a significant amount of resources in, and we're not done until we are comfortable working with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, etc. But at this point in time, everything that we've seen thus far is pointing to other than a crime taking place, but that we're not ruling anything out. Yes, ma'am.
Did the witness say how long
About 15 minutes.
I think,
Tony?
confirmed or disproving the claim about the asylum application, has that been confirmed by the State Department sources or whoever you're talking to?
I have not spoken to anyone in the State Department, but I will tell you that I believe that the two girls filed for asylum. Anything beyond that, we don't have any information.
Why are you looking at court records?
I'm sorry?
Court records?
Court records, by I mean search warrants, subpoenas, etc. Whether we're subpoenaing credit cards, phones, physical phones, computers, etc. Anything that will fill in these gaps.
Can you talk about the facility where they were living in? Was it a government run facility? Was there any reason why you said they lived there until the end of the
What I will say is that they were last seen by their family November 30th of 17. In December of 17, they were located by authorities in Virginia. They were not returned to their home. They were placed in a facility similar to, I would categorize it as someone that a victim of domestic violence might go to, and then for privacy issues, I won't speak any more to that facility.
The hotels that they were staying in, the high-end hotels, how many were there and which ones were they?
A number of hotels, Hilton, Knickerbocker, Hyatt, high-end hotels. There is strong possibility here that I alluded to a credit card maxed out, that money was running out.
One more on this topic here, please.
You mentioned the reports of asylum, Do you have any information thus far that the sisters or the family, any members of the family, received any type of communication that they were going to be deported back to Saudi Arabia?
I believe that was a fear of theirs from interviews that we've done in Virginia. It was definitely a concern of the two girls. What that was based on, that would be me surmising, and I want to stay away from that.
As far as the abuse, were there police reports made to Fairfax Police or any police department regarding the abuse?
That I'm not sure at this time.
Chief, you mentioned witnesses in Virginia had said that do you know when that was that they indicated they would be harming themselves when those arguments were said?
So they were returned after the first time they went missing, and that was in December of 17. The last they were seen before what we believe is the beginning of the trip that eventually wound up in New York is on or about August 23rd or August 24th. So between December of 17 to August 23rd or 24th, we believe we know where they were located. Again, I mentioned the facility. While that time in that facility, that's when those stories came out.
So here and the line of subject.
Yep.
On the asylum claim, do you know, can you say whether it was a political claim, religious persecution claim, some other kind of claim, asylum? There's various, types of asylum. This one.
What I will say is they definitely referenced the allegations of abuse.
Back on the back corner, please, Chief.
Was it a family credit card? Was it a personal credit card? One of the girls, whose credit cards were matched?
If you know. And
Personal credit card?
personal credit card.
Not from family, but from one of the girls.
In the eldest, the 23-year-old's name, Matana. Last one?
Where is the mother and father right
I do not know, but
Is the father in Saudi Arabia?
I don't have that information.
I was thinking, right, other cases of interest,
I'll just ask them to step out. Thank you very much.
I know there are a lot of stories going on.
Yeah.
One of the,
Well, what's that here? What's that? You have anything, Chief? That, right?
Yeah, I will. You want to go with the 4-0, very brief?
oh, that's what you wanted to ask about, the bullet in the window.
Well, related, but maybe not related. But I just want to start off. We're only a few days removed from a New York City police officer being shot. We still are urging the public, anyone with any information whatsoever, to call Crime Stoppers. There is a $12,500 reward. Here is a video of 2 of the individuals that are involved that night. We believe there was up to 5 separate firearms on the scene. As I said the other day, we had recovered, I believe, 14 shell casings, 4 to 5 cars that were hit. A bullet went through somebody's window. Luckily, nobody was hit. But again, 5 firearms on the street within the confines of the 40th precinct. We're urging everyone. And this incident now is turning to a familiar refrain: gangs and guns. So anyone with information, please call Crime Stoppers.
This is separate from what I was going to ask about.
Well, it might be, and it might not be separate. This week, we had a shot go through a window in the vicinity of St. Anne's Place. I will say that this is not far from St. Anne's Place. We believe that there are gangs involved in the incident and where our off-duty police officer was shot. And I will point out that some of the great work of our police officers last night, again, precision policing, deployed exactly where we believe something is going to happen, and made several arrests in St. Anne's Park, recovered 2 separate firearms. So a lot of good work going on, but again, we will not rest until we bring that case to a close. Tony?
In terms of the arrest yesterday in a federal sex trafficking case, in which they linked to the missing person, Marina Swisher or Slusher from Pennsylvania, I was wondering if in the course of the federal case, you've gotten any light or indication as to what happened to them?
I'm going to have to get back to you on that, Tony. Yeah. It's in the head somewhere, but again, it's not coming out right now. Yeah, we've had a couple of those cases, and I'll get back to you on that.
The synagogue from last night, they had
Yeah.
canceled the political event, and
Yeah.
it was very disturbing.
77th precinct.
Yeah, the stuff that was written in the staircases in different areas
Yeah.
of the synagogue was disturbing.
It was beyond, I would categorize it as beyond disturbing. I think we have a picture that we're about to release if we haven't already. We will not stand for this type of activity in New York City. We have a very robust hate crimes task force. I said this week that where we are right now, we're up about 1% in crimes, and that's not the right side of what we want to be on. We'd like to push that number down. We've had a spike in anti-Semitic reported crimes the last 30 days or so. This here is one of the latest examples. This individual went into the facility, a facility where people go to pray and worship, and scrawled some pretty derogatory, hate-filled messages along the walls. 77th Precinct along Eastern Parkway in that vicinity. Anyone with information, please call Crime Stoppers.
Do you believe it's just this one person?
Absolutely not. I mean, we see this particular incident obviously is captured on video, but we see this type of hate-filled message in multiple areas carried on by different people. There's no excuse for it. Again, we have hate crimes task force with dedicated detectives. We make arrests on these cases. They're not easy. This one, I'm very confident that we will get an arrest, but we need anyone that has information about this type of activity or whether anyone recognizes this individual to please call us.
Is this the only person that's associated
With this particular one at this time, yes.
Chief Shea, there have been some similar incidents throughout, particularly in the 24th precinct on the Upper West Side
Yeah.
in the past few months.
Yeah.
Have any individuals been identified arrested in those cases?
Yeah, I'll give you a bit of an overview, and we can certainly get back to you on specific cases. When you look at the universe of hate crimes in New York City, the vast majority are anti-Semitic in nature. And when you drill down on the anti-Semitic hate crimes, most of it is this type of activity, graffiti, or a message scrawled on a door or a stoop or a bus stop or a train. Quite frequently it's swastikas driven, but not all of them. You know, we had an incident yesterday reported to us not far from here at the African burial ground, where somebody went after another group and targeting them with a hate-filled message. It was cleaned up quickly. Thankfully, most people wouldn't see it if you went to that beautiful location, but we will investigate that and you know, follow those leads, another area that's covered with video, and do what we can to bring anyone that feels the need to do this kind of silly, hate-filled activity to justice. Rocco? Yeah, you're trying to pin me down there, Rocco. I'm going to stay away from specifics. What I'll say is I'm very thankful to the men and women of Manhattan North Detectives on that case, specifically the 2-4 Detective Squad and Manhattan North Homicide. It's an active homicide investigation. The arrest is not the end of that story. The real story is we want a successful prosecution, so I'm going to stay away from surmising what may or may not happen, and I'll let it rest with the hands of the Manhattan DA to prosecute it on the merits.
Let's just be away in the 10th precinct testing.
Yeah. Yeah, so what we have here, we have an individual that goes out, comes home. She's discovered at some point by the ex-boyfriend. The OCME, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, has not yet ruled on a cause of death. Like I said with the case in the 2-0 precinct, we will treat all of these as a crime until proven otherwise. So we have crime scene and the 10th Precinct Detective Squad, Manhattan South Homicide out there, and we'll be guided, if you will, by the OCME, and this is going to take a little bit of while to sort out whether it was an overdose or something else. We do have video of that individual entering the building. It appears, based on the video, that she was in a highly intoxicated state. You can see her fall down on the video. Whether that contributed in any way to her subsequent discovery in the apartment is unknown at this time, but we're working it.
Chief, earlier this week we had the homicide, I think it was possibly 77 Brooklyn House, Mr. Zito, the 77-year-old man is what it was. Any indication as to what was behind that? Was it a robbery? Was it a planned assassination related to possible organized crime?
Open investigation, Tony, and I know that won't suffice you, but we're exploring multiple leads, multiple potential motives with that case. Again, anyone with information. I don't want to nail down any particular one, so we're not leaving any stone unturned, and we will explore multiple motives until we determine what exactly happened there.
Following on that.
Another question for you about the synagogue. You just mentioned there's been an uptick in anti-Semitic
There has.
attacks. Do you have a percentage and over what time period?
Yeah, I can't quote you, but we can certainly get that. And let me just be clear, if we were standing here a month ago, we would have been down pretty significant citywide in hate crimes. But over the last roughly 4 weeks, there has been an uptick. Attack, you could take different ways. These things are despicable actions, but there's generally, what we've seen is no human contact. It's graffiti, it's leaving a message on a door, etc. We don't have any indication that they're targeting one specific person to read, but that's what we're seeing. And it tends to, we've seen it in different parts of the city, yes, different parts of the city. We've seen it in Manhattan, we've seen it in Brooklyn, we've seen it on the Upper West Side, we've seen it in different parts of the city.
Are you worried about more questions here? In that particular incident, setting off Pittsburgh, shooting at synagogue in Pittsburgh last week, are you worried about copycat attacks? In terms of individuals who see one instance of hate crime being perpetrated, they might trail it?
I am very confident in the men and women of the New York City Police Department, from patrol to detectives to our counterterrorism force. This is what we do every day. We prepare for the worst. We keep people safe. I think they do an outstanding job when you look at where we are in New York City, blending together the neighborhood policing, reaching out, building bonds with the community. When you look where we are crime-wise in New York City today, historically, we're in a very good place. We're looking to push crime even lower, and we will not stand for whether it's gang activity or, in this case, hate crimes. There's still work to do. We had a 14-year-old shot in the face this week in Brooklyn. Gang. We had a police officer off duty shot in the Bronx. Gang. So there is still work to do, but we are near all-time record lows. We are at levels of crime in New York City that we've never seen before.
Let's go here.
Rocco, last one.
Did the sisters blind duct tape? Do you have evidence of that they purchased?
It's something that we are obviously looking at. We have a lot of subpoenas, et cetera, not yet returned. We do not have that yet, but it's certainly something we're looking at. Thank you very much.